Good morning, it's December 1st, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Well, what, if anything, should be done with the filibuster rule in the U.S. Senate? On first look, I've always maintained that Rule 22 of the Senate is essential because it encourages negotiation and debate. The House of Representatives is the people's house, and legislation can be passed by a simple majority. It is when it goes to the so-called upper chamber of the U.S. Senate that real debate should begin. As someone that worked for many years in the Senate, I've seen this process work out, and things that resulted in compromises were better for the American people. In the last Congress, the Democrats were frustrated by Republicans using the filibuster rule and threatened to change the rule and abolish the filibuster. They were thwarted in this effort by two of their own colleagues, Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia and Senator Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona. They clearly understood that changing the rule would lead to future chaos in the Senate. Every time the majority changed in the Congress, laws would change back and forth. That's not good for the Senate, and certainly not good for the American public. While this debate was going on, Senator Sinema penned an op-ed in the Washington Post, and she correctly summarized the issue. Quoting her, "But bipartisan policies that stand the test of time could help heal our country's divisions and strengthen Americans' confidence in our government. It is working for all of us and is worthy of all of us. Instability, partisanship, and tribalism continue and affect our politics. The solution, however, is not to continue weakening our democracy's guardrails. If we eliminate the Senate's 60-vote threshold, we will lose much more than we gain." End quote. She's exactly correct. Republicans regained the majority in the Senate in 2024 elections, and Chuck Schumer, now the majority leader, who had promised to get rid of the rule to change it so they could jam through what they wanted, took to the Senate floor last November to plead with the Republicans to not do to the Democrats what they had planned to do to them. His words verbatim were, quote, "Take care not to misread the will of the people and do not abandon the need for bipartisanship. After winning an election, the temptation may be to go to the extreme. We've seen that happen over the decades as consistently backfired on the party in power. So instead of going to the extremes, I remind my colleagues that this body is most effective when it's bipartisan. If we want the next 4 years in the Senate to be as productive as the last 4, the only way that will happen is through bipartisan cooperation." End quote. Now that's some real chutzpah, even from New York. It's also the height of hypocrisy. But perhaps we need to refine the filibuster rule. One simple change would be to ban filibustering what is known as the Senate as the motion to proceed. What happens when any bill comes to the floor? The majority leader will ask for a time agreement, setting how much time to debate on the bill and how much time on each amendment. This is where senators most often do the filibuster on this motion to proceed. Somebody objects. This prevents the bill in question from ever coming to the floor for real debate. I would suggest that you cannot filibuster the motion to proceed, but you can still retain the ability to filibuster the actual bill. So what would a change like this nature accomplish? It would allow senators to actually debate the legislation in question, offer amendments, and negotiate for final passage. In the end, the final product would still need 60 votes to pass. Then the public could see how each individual senator felt about the underlying legislation as well as the amendments and how they would vote on those amendments. That would be a lot more transparency that exists right now. Making this small change would allow the public to better understand what is just political theater in the Senate and what is actual policy discussion and debate. It would force senators to be more open in negotiations and not hide behind some leadership mandates. And that should making that change should put an end to any call for abolishing the 60-vote rule on real legislation. But that's what Democrats will do if they get the power, and we as Americans will all be the losers for that. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.